Our story today begins, as many do, with a young woman named Natsuko Hirose putting pen to paper. Oh yeah, no, I meant literally. Natsuko here got hired at an anime studio straight out of high school, and from there she worked hard, became an animation director, did storyboards, and became an episode director. Sis is more of a slave to her work than Eren is to freedom. While giving us a look at her first hit anime, Natsuko explains that her next project's an original rom-com film called Hatsukoi. The only problem? She might be functional, but she's a total NEET at heart, which means she can't write romance to save her life. Something that's pretty apparent when her supervisor comes over to check on her golden goose and sees she hasn't even gotten started. Luckily, the old cougar's really chill and tells Natsuko she has faith in her before leaving. But first, she hands off a whole bunch of expired bento boxes to another employee to dispose of. I'm totally sure that won't be important later. Back in the break room, a conversation between two of her coworkers reveals the haggard appearance she's got right now is self-imposed, and she'll only allow herself to fix her hair once she gets her project done. On top of that pressure, Natsuko also keeps on taking the workload of other tasks, not wanting to compromise and settle for the lesser quality of others. And so, with her health neglected, her stress at an all-time high, and the sudden news that a role model of hers in anime directing has passed away, she ended up grabbing one of those expired bento and sitting down to watch a movie from said director. It's one she's watched more times than she can count, and is known for being famously depressing. Not only does the protagonist, Luke Braveheart, lose his closest friends, but he's also faced with one soul-crushing challenge after another. Right as Natsuko's thirsting over Luke's 2D dimensions like the true weeb she is, the expired food she's been shoveling down finally catches up to her already weakened body, and the girl collapses to the floor. Even as her boss rushes over to help her, Natsuko's already about to shove off the mortal coil, her hand tightly gripping onto her drawing tool, and then darkness. For like 2 seconds. Now she's in a desert after seeing her life so far flash before her eyes real quick. Talk about anticlimactic. Right as the animator's coughing up the mouthful of sand she's landed in, though, a massive sandbug monster shows up and tries to eat her. I take it back, this is pretty climactic. Just as Natsuko finds herself unable to run any further and prepares to be eaten, something wholly unexpected happens. A literal knight in shining armor shows up to save her, supported by an elf-eared archer and a magical-wielding stuffed toy. Why am I even questioning this? Anime's always weird. Between the archer's arrows, the stuffed toy's magic, and the knight's flashy swordsmanship, the monster's taken down quickly, quite literally imploding into a mini black hole. Because screw physics. Of course, all this makes it quite evident that Natsuko has been ISEKAI'D, especially when the knight, called Luke by his friends, scolds her for putting herself in danger. Unfortunately, Natsuko's in denial, believing Luke and his friends to just be really creative cosplayers. Holy mother of copium, that's her reach. Quickly growing tired of the weird stuff Natsuko keeps saying, Luke and his party give her a warning to get to town as fast as she can before heading into the skies themselves. Because the stuffed toy can turn into a flying horse. Yeah, because why not at this point? Even after reaching the town they told her about and seeing literal beast folk walking around, Natsuko keeps trying to rationalize what she's seeing, but when she spots Luke's party and recognizes a whole ton of event markers from a very familiar piece of media, even she is forced to face reality. Or, well, non-reality. God, I don't get how this works. As far as she can tell, she's been transported straight into the world of A Tale of Perishing, the film that's always fascinating her so much. Quickly rushing over to where Luke and his friends are being treated as the guests of honor for a feast, Natsuko proceeds to make a total ass of herself. I mean, really, she straight up starts yapping about isekai rules and how there's no way she could have gone through that since she was a totally upstanding member of society. Yeah, and I'm Santa Claus. Meanwhile, Luke and his companions continue to mistake Natsuko for a gremlin thanks to the hair situation she's got going on, which really doesn't help her image right now. When Natsuko suddenly remembers the catastrophe that occurs after this feast in the original film and tries to warn them, Luke's party finally decides she's a nutcase, and they have her dragged away by security. Of course, her using the stuffed toy Unio as a stress toy doesn't exactly help her case. By the time night falls, Natsuko's still stuck around as close as she can, staring at the hero's food like a starving peasant, which is kinda exactly what she is here. Even as she experiences disappointment in Luke's pettiness and Unio's cocky attitude though, Natsuko feels that need to warn them about the events of the film. Luke and his friends will defeat the Void Army that's coming their way, but Unio will die in the process, leaving the hero with crippling depression. Damn, he'll be just like me! Sure enough, almost like a prophecy playing out in real time, the town's alarms start going off as the Void Army is spotted marching their way. As Luke and Cole go rushing to protect the town, Natsuko quietly sneaks onto the main walls to watch. Despite wanting to do something, Natsuko knows this is just how this story goes and reminds herself there's nothing she can do. But with each passing moment, as she sees the scenes of the film playing out before her actual eyes, Natsuko's anxiety grows more and more. As she expected, Luke is quickly overwhelmed by the enemy's numbers, which means the tragedy is going to occur now. Unseen by Natsuko, however, something in her pocket is glowing brighter and brighter as her emotions grow more desperate. And then, right after she screams out for them to run, the glowing peg bar speaks to her, and it tells her she must draw. In the meantime, Unio has trapped Luke and their archer friend in shield bubbles, planning to save them by taking out the Void Army with a self-destruct spell. Bro's trying to pull a Vegeta. Vegeta, no! Just as Unio moves out of their range though, Natsuko suddenly bolts onto the scene, running like a woman possessed. Usain Bolt would be proud if he saw this, or he'd die of embarrassment. Could go either way. Anyway, now that she's on the battlefield, Natsuko gets into an argument with her peg bar. Real classy. Meanwhile, Unio has started the casting sequence for the self-destruct spell she plans to use, almost as if she's responding directly to Luke's desperate cries over the situation. Natsuko finally listens to her peg bar and manages to unleash a power completely unique to herself. In a stunning visual display, she summons forth her cubicle from work, allowing her to draw at inhumane speeds like the peg bar told her to. This just looks like me the night before a homework deadline. Sure enough, in a record time of 42 seconds, Natsuko finishes her drawing, which proceeds to come to life right before everyone's eyes. This creation summoned forth by Natsuko's unique power is an utter monstrosity, formed by the combination of several anime ideas. But right now, Natsuko doesn't have the time to focus on the beast's appearance. With seconds left before Unio sacrifices herself, Natsuko has the beast unleash a literal nuke on the Void Army, wiping them all out and knocking Unio out of her spell casting. In the aftermath of the army's destruction, Luke approaches Natsuko, whose hair is now finally out of her face. A fact which shocks Luke into silence when he gets a proper look at her for the first time. Unfortunately, right in the middle of answering his questions about who she is, Natsuko collapses from exhaustion, leaving the knight to catch her mid-fall. Though he has more questions than answers, he knows now who to thank for saving his friend's life. Natsuko Hirose, of the kingdom known as Reality, and above all, an animator.